good evening, and welcome to It's Always Spooky in Hollywood. My name is Patrick, and I am one of your hosts. Please, other hosts, introduce yourselves.
My name is Red Drum Arts.
You like scary movies? Hi, I'm Lugia.
Yeah,
The Scream reference.
I don't know. This is kind of like let's consider this a Halloween episode.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Halloween is in 1 week at the time of recording.
It is
Halloween's in a
October
and
24th.
we're talking about a horror movie.
Yeah, but before we get into that, let's breeze through some trailers because we got a lot of trailers that came out this week. First on the docket is a reboot of Home Alone for Disney Plus called Home Sweet Home Alone.
Yeah, that movie's gonna suck because it takes place in England.
Here we go again.
It's the thing. When I first heard that, I thought it was a combination of Home Alone and a Japanese movie called Sweet Home.
Well, guys,
New.
serious question. Do we need 6 Home Alone movies?
Apparently.
For real.
I saw
For
4
real.
of them, so I'm part of the problem.
People only like 2 of them.
I only like 1.5 of them. Quite frankly, I don't like Home. Once Tim Curry leaves Home Alone 2, I don't like the movie anymore. Because quite frankly, the traps just aren't as fun.
And Tim Curry is Tim Curry. You can't.
Yeah. And quite
You
frankly,
can't have that movie without him.
I slightly enjoy Home Alone 3 just because describing the plot to other people is the funniest shit ever. Yeah.
Home Alone 3 has some moments.
I'm going to make a Home Alone 3 reference when we discuss this movie.
I mean, it is about kids trying to get into a house. And I mean, Home Alone is about burglars trying to get into a house. You know, it's...
Yeah, and you got a kid, like, looking through the microscope like a creep. Not the microscope, telescope.
Anyway, aside from Home Alone, we got the Scream 5 trailer, which is actually just called Scream.
Not a reboot.
Why?
I just want to say...
It's not a reboot. Why are they calling it Scream?
I think we complained about that in a previous episode.
Wait, actually, I have a question. One more thing about the Home Alone thing. What do you think of the casting of the new villains? Because obviously they don't got Joe Pesci, they don't got Harry Marv anymore. But they got Ellie Kemper, who, if you may know from The Office and Kimmy Schmidt, or like 21 Jump Street, she was in all that.
I honestly have no comment.
I haven't seen the trailers for myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
Anyway, so
yeah, Scream 5.
My final comment.
Whatever.
I think the lead kid might be interesting. He was in Jojo Rabbit, which I liked.
Oh, we're still on Home. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. One last comment. I'm probably going to sympathize with the villains a lot more than the main characters because the villains are fucking True Blood USA, and I'm just inherently less sympathetic towards the British. One more British dish. I had to get one in. All right.
Anyway, Scream.
This one's going to be interesting because it's the first one Wes Craven's not directing because, Wes Craven's not alive. Wes Craven directed all 4 of the previous Screams. But anyway, it being called Scream just kind of, that feels like a trend in Hollywood nowadays, It's like, wasn't like not the Halloween movie that just came out, but the Halloween movie before that called Halloween.
Dude, there are 3 movies just called Halloween.
Yeah, but the thing is that the new Halloween's a sequel. It's not a reboot.
It's simple. You just assign the year it was released to the name.
Yeah, and then we got Rocky Balboa, and then we got Rambo. Because I mean, I know technically the first Rambo movie is called First Blood, so there's only one movie called Rambo, but it's still like weird, Let's see what else.
Hollywood, please stop being lazy with your movie titles. It just makes it confusing. But I mean, other than that, looks like it could be interesting.
Anyway, I want to talk about the Uncharted trailer next. I know the order is a bit different here, but just because I feel like we were pretty negative on the last 2, and I just figured, why not limp all the negative ones together? The new Uncharted movie came out. Have you guys played the games?
No.
No.
I'm not too familiar with Naughty Dog's IPs unless it's Crash Bandicoot.
I've played the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games, and I've played the first Jak and Daxter.
Okay, so out of curiosity, if you saw the trailer, what did you think of it?
Kind of reminds me of like Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider.
No, that's definitely what the games are going for. They were going for...
Okay, so I guess it succeeds in that end. But
yeah, see, I had a negative opinion of it, but that's because I played the game. So I was like curious if you guys thought it looked better because you hadn't.
I saw in the comments section a lot of people were like, "This looks like it could be good." but it doesn't look accurate.
Yeah, seeing as the characters are horribly miscast. If anything, Mark Wahlberg should be playing Nathan Drake. Cause see, Nathan Drake is like a dude in his 30s. He's like Indiana Jones in age, also, and Tom Holland looks like a 15-year-old little boy.
I did think that moment in the trailer where like they're trying to get back onto the plane using like the crates
That's-
hanging out. I did think that was cool.
Okay, I'll admit that part's actually ripped straight from a game.
Okay,
That was,
Isn't that
from,
like the
I can
intro to
belie-
Uncharted
I can
2?
believe that. I can believe
No,
that.
Uncharted 2 is a planes dangling off a cliff. I'm pretty sure the crate was Uncharted 3. But yeah. I don't know. Part of me thinks it might be good because my favorite adventure movies are the ones where it's like the older dude teamed up with the younger dude. Tintin, Indiana Jones 3. Those are my favorite, of those types of movies. So who knows? This seems to be fitting that formula. So
I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out.
yeah. I'll
I
wait
don't
for
know.
the reviews to come out for that one, but I might check it out. But in positive news, I think the new Batman trailer looks really good.
You mean the Batman?
Yes.
The
I think it
Batman.
looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, I guess having "the" in the title makes it more distinguishable, so that's something.
Like the Suicide Squad. But I've complained about that in the past.
At least the Batman I think fits a bit more just because that has been like they've distinguished that multiple times in the past before. Like he's called the Batman. There was even a cartoon that came out when we were kids. Do you remember that one?
Which one?
2005. There was this Batman cartoon called The Batman. It ran for like 4 years.
I don't
What
recall
network
that one.
What network was that?
WB, I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember. Honestly, I didn't really watch many
Here.
superhero shows when I was younger.
Maybe if I post this-
I watched the original Teen Titans, but that's about it.
I believe
Okay,
so.
so this Batman trailer, it's kind of everything I want in a Batman movie. It looks like it's going to be focusing on detective stuff. It looks like they're making Batman a little bit more psychotic, and they're also going to explore his character more. They're actually, giving him a prominent romance, which I haven't done since Batman Returns and Mask of the Phantasm, which are like two of my favorite Batman movies. So I'm like, yeah, focus on that. Also, The Dark Knight, that focus on the romance. So the three best Batman movies all focused on his, romantic relationships. I was like, it's a good
I'll
sign.
be honest, I haven't seen many of the Batman movies, but this does look interesting. I'll probably check this out.
Yeah. I like how Gotham actually looks visually distinct because let's see, Batman Begins did that, but then like for some reason the Dark Knight onward they just make it look like Chicago, and I'm like, well, that's kind of disappointing. I like how Gotham here looks distinct, looks like a shithole.
And judging from the trailer, I assume that the Riddler and the Penguin are going to be the main antagonists.
Yeah, there's usually a gangster element in Batman movies anyway, so the Penguin might just be like a background thing.
And
the last
trailer on the docket is the animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid for Disney Plus, which we talked about a few episodes back because they released some stills, but now we get to see these characters in motion.
Yeah, so we already talked about how I thought the art style was a bit weird, so I'm going to focus on what the actual trailer showed new, and I'm going to say a little disappointed because I saw Greg hug Rowley, and quite frankly, Book Greg is a sociopath, a piece of shit. He would never do that.
I mean, I'd say it looks pretty accurate to what the first book was. You got familiar elements like the Halloween thing, the whole cheese touch.
God, it's been so long since I last read the books.
I'm kind of disappointed that
I
they're
don't really
readapting
remember
the
a whole
first
lot
book.
aside from the cheese touch.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they adapted the books that weren't already adapted because those were pretty accurate. But yeah.
Do you guys still read the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, or did you stop?
I stopped.
I stopped.
Yeah,
I stopped before they
think
started changing the font.
they changed the font.
I think I stopped after
Every
Cabin
book
Fever.
has new font now.
Oh,
Cabin Fever was the last one I thought was truly good, but I read a few more.
I
Let me
think
check.
the last one I read was like old school, but like I couldn't tell you what happened in it. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure the last one I read was Hard Luck, but I didn't own Hard Luck. I think I just like flipped through that at like the library, and then I was like, I'm not gonna buy this. But I think the last one I owned was The Third Wheel, which is about Greg never scoring.
To talk about the art style for a second, I get what they're doing, translating the original designs to computer animation. I wish the animation went with something more like what the Peanuts movie did. What they're doing seems to be more in line with like the Captain Underpants movie. But I feel like
Isn't
these
terrible.
designs would suit better from like a 2D perspective.
It's kind of like front facing Simpsons. It's just it should only be in 2D.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. I don't know.
Okay, the live action Cowboy Bebop trailer came
Of
out.
course, it wouldn't be an episode of It's Always Sunny in Hollywood if we didn't bitch about the live
We
action.
just gotta wait
Cowboy
for the fucking
Bebop.
show to come out so that we can stop bitching about it.
Okay, but this time they showed actual footage. They actually talked and stuff, and it looks awful. Oh my god, it looks so bad. I don't know who this is for.
I've not seen Cowboy Bebop, but I'm just gonna take your word for it.
Cowboy
You're better
Bebop's
off
like a
watching the
noir-
original series.
Cowboy Bebop's like a noir western. This series is trying to go for a goofy comedy. But the thing is, it's like a goofy comedy meant for 10-year-olds because like they're using like fake swears. It looks like it's Power Rangers. They're also going for cartoony action, but they're using like CGI to make it cartoony. I'm like, listen, you can't do cartoony live action unless you get like a physical actor to really commit, like a Jackie Chan type.
Yeah,
Jackie
that's
Chan could do that, but like, so yeah, looks pretty ugly. They had some weird Ang Lee Hulk type transitions, and people are like, "Oh, that looks cool." I'm like, "It doesn't look cool. It looks bad. What are you talking about? What, whatever."
all right. Shall we actually talk about the movie now?
Yep.
Monster House, released in 2006, and was the directorial debut of Gil Kenan, who would go on to direct City of Ember and the Poltergeist remake in 2015.
Yeah, and that's pretty fitting. Poltergeist. You've seen Poltergeist, right?
I have not. I did see City of Ember though. I don't remember anything about it though.
I didn't see the Poltergeist remake, but the original is about a haunted house. I'm like, yeah, okay, pretty fitting movie choice. Do you know who the writers are?
Yes, I do. This movie was originally directed by Rob Schrab and Dan Harmon, who co-created Rick and Morty and was the creator of Community. And I know, Red, you're a big fan of Community.
Yeah, but Rob Schrab also worked on Community, and he's a close friend of Dan Harmon, and both of them made the comic book Scud the Disposable Assassin.
Though, upon doing my research, I found that most of what they wrote was rewritten by someone named Pamela Petler. So, and apparently, Dan Harmon has said he criticized the director for a lot of what happened, but actually, even though it is pretty crazy that Dan Harmon was a part of the production of this movie, what's even crazier is that this movie was executive produced by Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg.
I mean, it makes sense. It's
okay. The Zemeckis thing
image movers.
Yeah, the Zemeckis thing makes sense since this is a motion capture movie. The Steven Spielberg thing is very surprising. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know. He's close friends with Zemeckis, and this kind of has that classic '80s feel, you know. Spielberg produced and allegedly directed Poltergeist, and this was just a few years before Tintin, right? Maybe Spielberg wanted to get his footing in like the motion capture.
This is their first time Zemeckis and Spielberg collaborated on a movie since Back to the Future 3. This is interesting. It's like, hey, let's do Monster House together. Yeah, this movie released in 2006 was pretty successful at the box office, and was even a competitor during awards season, receiving a nomination for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, though it lost to Happy Feet. Before we actually get into the movie, I just want to know, we've all seen this movie before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like on TV as a kid.
Yeah, so I told you guys this before, I'm going to say it again. When I was a kid, I saw this movie originally when I was a kid, like, not in theaters, I caught it on TV a few years after it came out. I remember it scared the crap out of me. I remember it was me, my dad, and my brother. Like, throughout the entire runtime, I was, like, terrified. But, like, at the very end of the movie, when the house ripped itself from the ground and started chasing after them, I was done. I'm like, no, I can't watch this anymore. Dad, take me upstairs.
Yeah, I can't handle a non-living object being able to move around.
But no, there were several scenes that scared me. There was that scene, the shadow of the house appearing in DJ's room and the screen turning red. That freaked me out. And also when the kids find the old man's wife's body.
That part is legitimately creepy. Like almost everything inside the house.
Yeah, so I remember those three things like even though I haven't seen this movie in years, those three scenes like are still have still been like vivid in my head.
Um, the main thing I remembered was the twist.
We'll get to that.
The only thing that I remembered before rewatching this for myself was just that the house was alive and it eats people.
I did manage to a few years after I first saw it, I did catch it on TV again. I don't remember much from the second viewing. I don't think I finished it before then. But I don't know. All I know is that I have attempted to watch this movie twice. This was my first time watching it all the way through. So let's go over a plot synopsis. Not really a huge complicated plot. There's this kid named DJ who lives across the street from an old man named Mr. Nevercracker, who's, the typical old man yelling at people to get off his lawn and to leave him alone.
Voiced by Steve
But,
Buscemi, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. This actually has a couple famous people. You got Paul
Kevin
Blart
James.
got Paul
Yeah.
Blart Mall Cop playing an actual cop, Nick Cannon as his sidekick,
Napoleon Dynamite. What's his real name?
John Hader
Yeah, him.
as that dude that ate the cookie.
Yeah.
M-
Dude,
maybe
that ate the
one-
cookie.
Maggie Gyllenhaal as the babysitter. And interestingly enough,
David
Jason
Cross.
Lee.
Yeah, Jason Lee, not David Cross. sorry.
Jason Lee as the kind of stoner teenage
The boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was T.J. Miller because some people point out that he sounds like Robbie from Gravity Falls. Wendy's boyfriend or whatever.
But anyway, one day, Mr.
Oh, wait.
Nevercracker. What?
Also, Kathleen Turner as Constance.
One day, Mr. Nevercracker suffers a heart attack and presumably dies. And when that happens, DJ notices some strange things start to happen on Nevercracker's property. And by that, I mean he realizes that his house is actually alive and eating anyone and anything that crosses into the yard. So DJ and his friends, Chowder and Jenny, try to alert the authorities of the sentient house, but of course nobody believes them. So they do what kids in these movies do and take matters into their own hands to try to kill the house before Halloween night. And thus we have Monster House. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this movie is not as scary as I remember it.
There was a few unsettling things though.
Yeah, there's
Again,
a few creepy images.
Almost
but, like,
everything inside of the house was.
yeah, like the inside of the house, that is pretty creepy. And
I don't know, I thought
like-
there was nice bits of tension when they were like first slowly revealing that the house is alive.
yeah, like there are some moments that are creepy, but like nothing like from when I was a kid that I thought was like, oh my
Well,
god.
being 15 years older now with experience of other
I
horror
know.
movies kind of would
I
do
know.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt this movie is better than I thought it. It was better than I remembered.
I can't say much for myself because I don't really remember a whole lot from my first viewing.
I think the movie overall is decent. I wouldn't say it's great. But I did find myself relatively enjoying it.
Yeah, I thought this movie was I really enjoyed this movie. Some of the motion capture animation was a bit off, but because of like the exaggerated features of everyone, I thought it turned out pretty good.
I'm not gonna
Um,
go hard. I'm not gonna go hard on the motion capture since this was one of the first movies to try it.
Yeah, I think it
So
worked better than
it's-
Polar
it's-
Express, so they improved.
So the fact that it's a little jank is understandable. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I did find like the character designs interesting, and that like they looked like they were made out of like clay.
I was
Yeah,
on and
yeah,
off
they-
about that. I think the environments looked pretty good. I wasn't really a fan of the human models though. They looked off to me.
I will say I think the clay looks fine, but it does look weird that their hair is a similar texture as their skin. Also, I will say I don't think the effects are that great. Like the water and the fire, they look a little weak. But as a whole, I think the movie looks okay.
I think it works for 2006 because again, this
Yeah.
was one of the first movies to really use motion capture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to
And it
judge it
was-
based on that. I just think the art style as a whole was all right.
I do think it was probably a better choice than to try to go for realism, like full-on realism, like what Polar Express did. Like I think the stylization of the characters was a good call.
It's kind of hard to talk about this movie. So I saw this movie with a couple friends of mine actually. So I don't know. It was interesting seeing like everyone react to them because people are like, "Oh yeah, I remember this when I was a kid," and then they're sitting down, and then the overall consensus was that the movie is actually a lot better than they thought it was because as a kid they thought, oh, this is just some kind of shitty B movie, but then they're like, oh no, this is actually pretty good. What I felt is I thought this movie was kind of like Up, but like really fucked up,
Yeah,
grumpy old
yeah.
man.
I think of this movie as like basically Up if after the opening it became Goosebumps. An isolated old man getting over the loss of his wife.
Yeah.
But that old man is off screen for a good majority of the film, and you think he fucking dies. Speaking of, I forgot that movie did that where they had an old man collapse on a child. Like that is kind of terrifying.
I remember
that. It was really freaky how it was a POV shot.
Yeah.
This movie felt very 80s. In fact, I think it takes place in the 80s.
It does, like, because you could see, like, they use, like, a cassette player and landline phones.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I thought it was the 90s, but, no, IMDb said it's the 80s. And I'm like, alright.
No, it definitely feels 80s to me. Makes sense, because that's the era that, Zemeckis and Spielberg, those were what they were directing at the time. So,
yeah, in terms of the plot, it doesn't really matter in terms of the plot, but, it's nice flavor.
I guess it does matter a little bit because if it took place in like modern times, it took place in 2006.
Well, the movie came out in 2006.
Yeah, it came out in 2006. I don't know. You could probably like flip out like a camera and just record the house and be like, "See, cops." Yeah, but I don't know. Thought the characters are pretty good for the most part.
I was actually quite surprised. I thought that the child actors were very good.
The voice talent in this movie was pretty good. I don't think the writing was on the same level of quality, but the voice actors, especially for the kids, did a pretty good job with what they had to do.
So I know that the main character Mitchell Musso, he was in like Hannah Montana or something. He was on a lot of Disney shows, so he has a lot of experience. And you got I think like Jenny, the girl.
Jenny.
She was played by someone in like Ned's Declassified.
And apparently, she also played a character in the Resident Evil movies. I saw her credits.
It seemed like the person with the least amount of experience was Chowder. Speaking of which, Chowder's design kind of reminded me of Riley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, I've seen memes that like the kids in Monster House are the kids from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and yeah, I could like even DJ looks like Greg a bit.
Yeah,
it's like
Bones is Roderick.
Yeah, I guess.
And then you got
Speaking of lookalikes, I thought young Nevercracker looked a little bit like Fix It Felix.
Oh, okay. I thought it just looked like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought he looked like Steve.
No, like the young Mr. Nevercracker in the flashback.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they both look like Steve Buscemi.
I don't know. I saw more Fix It Felix, but I mean, he is played by Steve Buscemi, so
I don't know.
But actually,
he's got a distinctive voice, so maybe I just
Actually, one of my speaking of the delivery and stuff, one of my favorite lines in the movie is when DJ loses his ball in Nevercracker's yard, and he said, "I paid $28 for that. I raked 10 yards, and I asked my mom for $1 27 times."
I'm like, man, he got ripped off.
I thought that was funny. Like, so that means he made like only like 25 cents on like 10 yards. Or whatever. I don't know. I'm not good at math.
Man, the economy sucks in 2006.
I will say, I did think, I felt like the movie should have spent more time in the house. I think that's where, like, the most, like...
We only spent, like, 15 minutes actually inside the house.
Even though, like I said, I didn't think this movie was as scary as I remember it, there were some creepy moments, and I think, like, the inside of the house had a bit of an unsettling feel to it.
The dead wife being buried in cement.
Oh yeah, that whole thing looked freaky as hell.
Yeesh. Yeah, like I feel like they should have done more exploring in the house. I think that would have been cool.
I think what they should have done is take cues from Home Alone 3 and have them strap a camera to like a little remote control car. Maybe that's why I associated with the 90s, because Home Alone 3.
But I did like how this movie is obviously it's obviously geared more for like teenagers and like older kids. Because like there's like mild swearing, there's alcohol use. The kid steals drugs at one point. So this movie does have a bit of an edge to it, and I do like that. Like this isn't like your typical it's like a kid's.
I don't know. I feel like teenagers would see this as a schlocky B movie.
I don't know. Like older kids, like middle school kids, I think would have I think
I
get
feel
a
like this
pretty
is
good
more
kick out of
geared
this.
towards like 10 to 12-year-olds.
I don't know, like 12-year-olds are in middle school.
No, this feels like a middle school age.
I don't know.
I feel like the demographic is whatever age the main characters are because
They're like, I think they're 12 years old.
yeah.
I don't know. DJ says he's a grown up, so can we really go with that logic?
I don't know.
All kids say they're grown-ups.
Well, speaking of him being a grown up, I am a bit confused. What is like the moral supposed to be, if any? Because like the whole movie is him like trying to like prove like he's grown up, but at the end of the movie he's like, "Hey, let's go trick or treating." Like,
Don't love your wife too much, or else you'll be stuck inside of her.
Yes, is this movie is about a wife guy, but is it secretly a condemnation of wife guys? Who knows?
I don't know. But to talk about the third act for a second, the third act of this movie is pretty weird. Like it's like they reveal like the whole twist about like how the house is alive, and then it rips itself out of the ground and starts chasing after the kids. And nobody notices this. It's Halloween night. How does nobody notice a giant sentient house roaring and chasing kids down the street?
I don't know. Maybe everyone's parents are out of town for the week.
The only police force are gone, just the two cops who got eaten. Who, by the way, we never see them come back at the end. Or the dog. So those two cops and the dog are dead for all we know.
No, Lugia. During the credits, they show them coming out from
No, just bones.
No, the police and the dog come out too.
Shit, was that the after credits?
Probably. You didn't stick around, did you?
No, because I stopped after I got to the credits.
Apparently they had to do that to ensure like a PG rating, from what I read.
Yeah. Oh, you can't have death in PG movies anymore, man.
I don't know. It's
no, Nevercracker's wife fucking died.
Speaking of the cops, I did think that the cops were a highlight. I did think they were funny.
Yeah, who knows? Like, I don't really find Kevin James funny, but he actually did a good job here.
I wish there was a bit more of them, but I know it's not their movie. Whatever.
Yeah, and then we got Nick Cannon. I thought Nick Cannon was a singer, but hey, for a singer, he did a pretty good job. You know.
Freeze, tree.
Yeah. I want to be like Nick Cannon. You want to know why?
Why?
He was married to Mariah Carey for 8 years.
Lucky man. But yeah, I wouldn't say this movie is consistently funny, but there were a lot of jokes where I that did make me laugh. Like I said, I did like Chowder being like, I paid I asked my mom for $1 27 times. Another line I liked was when they're in the house and they see the chandelier. That must be the uvula. Oh, so it's a girl house.
I don't know. I did like the basketball bit. I already said before that I liked the part where Chowder says, "I stole drugs for you." Other than that, I didn't really like the writing in this movie.
I thought it was pretty funny. I liked how the friends just like immediately turned on each other the second a girl got involved. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Simping over her.
Oh yeah, I did like that sort of drug deal they had with Z and Jenny. You know, where they're like, "Oh wait, you're a babysitter." I was like, "Yeah, all right, here's the deal. You give me $20."
So when Nevercracker quote unquote dies, we get a shot of the fire in the chimney starting up and the smoke coming out. Honestly, I feel like it would have worked better if it was something that happened in the background that wasn't in the forefront. Like maybe like there's like a scene where like DJ's looking like through the telescope and he notices like there's smoke coming out and he's like, "Oh, that's weird." And then like he realizes, "Oh wait, the house is alive. That's the heart. We should do something."
I think the whole time this movie is supposed to make you think that the house is alive because Nevercracker's spirit is controlling it.
Yeah, that was like I think the idea. The idea was that Nevercracker.
Shitter.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. His name sounds like two racial slurs mashed together. It wasn't even like the observation I made. Like other people made that observation. Remember, I saw this in a group of like 10. But yeah, it was meant to be a red herring. I think the idea was that you were supposed to think that he possessed the house, and then like you learn about the dead wife, and then you're supposed to piece together. It's like, oh,
the whole thing with the dead wife. I don't know if it's just me. Something felt missing. I don't know. The backstory felt
force.
I guess maybe some more development.
Yeah, I felt like it could have been a bit more developed.
Yeah,
because we don't really learn the truth until like near the end, and by that point, this movie just becomes a giant action set piece on trying to destroy the house.
Did you guys notice that in the backstory, it's there was a banner that said like Constance, the woman as big as a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was neat.
Yeah, that was neat.
I thought there was some neat foreshadowing when whatchamacallit, the dude says okay, so after Jenny says that it has a uvula and Chowder says so it's a girl house, I'm like,
I said that was one of the lines I thought was funny.
Fuck, shit, sorry, forgot.
No, it's okay. There was another line I thought was kind of funny. I don't know if it's offensive though. It said, "Are you guys mentally challenged? Because if you are, then I'm certified to teach you baseball."
That was a funny line, yeah. It was the '80s, whatever.
I know, but
it's the 80s as depicted by the 2000s. I'll give it a pass.
Surprisingly, no.
I think I've said everything I needed to say. Well, actually, one more thing. Just a minor thing though. When the kids first like go up to the house, I noticed that a lot of the camera angles were very tilted.
Actually, yeah, it's another thing. Yeah, I thought that the cinematography and the direction of this movie was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of really cool shots.
I guess they decided to really use the blend of motion capture and like full animation to their advantage.
Yeah. So this movie is visually interesting.
I thought it was funny how after Chowder beat the house came back, but in a new form. It reminded me like of a video game boss fight, you know.
Actually,
this isn't my final form.
Actually, that's another thing I did find kind of creepy. The house, like when it first gets destroyed and it reassembles itself as just a bunch of broken wood.
Yeah.
That is pretty chilling. Seeing like a big clump of wood screaming at this kid in a truck or a crane lifter, whatever. One of those construction set things. But yeah, overall, I'd say Monster House. I wouldn't call it a classic, but I think like it's got enough in it to make it like a decent Halloween viewing. Not one of my personal favorites, but I am glad I got to I am glad I finally got to sit all the way through it after so many years of being terrified.
All right, I'm wavering between a 7 or and an 8. I think it's pretty good. I'm leaning more towards an 8 right now, but who knows? I guess ranking wise, I'd put it somewhere in between like Hole, like around the Surf's Up area and Holes area. So yeah.
I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. I feel like a lot of the animated movies targeted towards younger demographics are kind of blending in together for me. I don't know, maybe I'm getting cynical.
I guess I thought this was pretty like different, honestly. I could see this movie in live action and it'd work perfectly fine. Like a sort of Stranger Things, Goonies type deal.
It does have some. This movie was released in the mid 2000s, like well before like the whole 80s craze kind of came back into full effect.
I mean, I didn't think the movie was bad. I thought it was good. No. It's just
it's not
something
bad.
Catered towards me.
That's fine. So like I'm like in between you guys. Like I said, I thought this movie was decent.
Also, I'm surprised I'm the most positive one out of us. Usually I'm like on the more cynical side, but okay.
That's why there's 3 of us. It's like, okay, yeah, Monster House. If you're at all curious, give it a watch. You might be surprised.
All right. So, I guess normally this is where I'd say if you like Monster House, check out these other movies. So, if you like Monster House, check out like basically everything Spielberg and Amblin made in the 80s. I don't know. Jaws, Jaws, Temple of Doom, Goonies, Monster Squad, Stand By Me, all those like Corey Feldman type stuff. Poltergeist, obviously, and yeah, any of those would work. Anyway, it's time for my recommendation. So, my initial plan. So I'm just gonna tell you how this is ruined. But my initial plan was Perfect Blue because I was thinking.
I knew it. Right.
So I talked about whatchamacallit, Ghost in the Shell. That two recommendations ago, and the last recommendation was what was my last recommendation?
The last recommendation was Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet, and I'm like, this movie is basically like the in between of Ghost in the Shell and Blue Velvet. So I was like, that'd be nice thing. But you know what? In retrospect, maybe it wasn't a good idea to have 3 incredibly similar movies as my recommendations in a row, especially because you know what, 2 horror movies in a row, forget about it.
That and Red also wanted me to watch it for the first time for the podcast, but joke's on him. I saw it yesterday.
No, that's fine if that you didn't see it for the first time in the.
All right, so
whatever.
change
that one I'm cool with. So change of plans.
What do you got?
So I got 4 things. So I guess I'll just pitch together what my backup plans were. So, one was an action movie. Actually, let me just say the genres. One's an action movie. One's a comedy satire. One's a drama/epic, and one's an alien invasion movie.
Oh, so do we have a choice?
Yeah. So
I'm thinking either action or comedy satire.
Names? So you want the action movie or the comedy satire? Okay. And what about your vote?
I'm gonna go with either the alien or the satire.
All right. So since both of you voted for satire, I guess we're going for satire.
Okay.
What is it?
It's Election from 1999, starring Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, all right.
I've never seen
personal
that.
favorite. Yeah, one of my personal favorite comedies. I saw it last year, and it is now my top 10 favorite movies of all time, currently.
All right.
Granted, Perfect Blue is also my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So,
all right, so not too far removed. We're still in a high ranking territory.
Just you wait. Like I'll do something shitty.
Yeah, I think you'll probably like this one. It gives me similar vibes like Mean Girls or Rushmore or something like that. I was originally going to double feature, but honestly, this movie is very different from those, so I think it stands on its own. This is from director Alexander Payne, who's directed Sideways, that movie about wine you might be familiar with.
I've heard of it. I've not seen it. I think I've told you the only Alexander Payne movie I've seen was Downsizing. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Don't worry, this is his. I'd argue this is his best movie. So very different from Downsizing. Got pretty high reviews. Looks like. It is a black comedy, so there's going to be some sort of dark humor. Nothing that's like aged poorly, but like.
It's going to offend some people.
No, it's not going to offend anyone, but it's like, here's the thing: Alexander Payne movies are basically about characters that are horrible, horrible people, and yeah, so like these are not good people. The main characters. I think it's pretty funny, pretty cool, well directed. So yeah, talk about that next week or whenever. Once in a lifetime talking.
Here's an outro. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy diabetes.